Night had enveloped the surroundings of the old hospital building. On the edge of the city lights had gradually been swallowed by the darkness, leaving the abandoned structure like a forgotten ghost, silently watching over the town. In this desolate place, there were 5 friends who dared to embark on an exploration: Emma and Lily, 2 girlfriends, and Jake, Daniel, and Ethan, 3 male friends. Their courageous spirits and curiosity had led them to this forgotten place. The night was dark and quiet, with only the rustling of the wind and distant sounds of the city scratching at their ears. The hospital building rose like a spectre. Under the cover of darkness, windows were boarded up with pieces of wood, walls were stripped, and an eerie silence enveloped the surroundings. As they entered, they could hear the creaking of the wooden floor beneath their feet. The wooden planks had weathered over time, producing strange sounds with each step. At first, they could only hear the howling of the wind and the echoing of footsteps. However, other sounds from deeper within began to join. Shadows formed peculiar shapes on the walls, occasionally giving the impression that someone was passing by. Jake was startled when he saw a shadow swiftly glide along the wall, but he didn't say anything to his friends, as they were all hesitant to confront the unknown. Emma spotted a strange glimmer in a corridor. As she followed it, she noticed a mysterious light behind a door leading to a room. Upon entering, they found an old painting hanging on the wall. The painting depicted the hospital's former staff. However, the eyes of the portraits looked melancholic and somber, as if they were trying to convey something. When Lily approached the painting and extended her hand, the room suddenly grew colder, and the air was filled with a chilling silence. The screams of Emma and Lily echoed through the corridors, marking the first moment that unveiled the secrets beyond this peculiar painting. As they ventured further, they discovered the horrifying truths about the hospital's past. This place had been a site for dreadful experiments where souls were trapped. They found old journals claiming that the hospital was haunted by wandering spirits. These journals detailed the descent into madness of the hospital staff and the horrifying experiments conducted on the patients. In the late hours of the night, they saw a strange shadow in the corridor. The shadows became more tangible, revealing terrifying creatures behind them. Despite their attempts to escape, the hospital seemed to be working against them, as if trying to ensnare them. Doors would suddenly shut, and corridors would change. The hospital seemed to breathe like a living entity, determined to draw them in. As they delved deeper into the heart of the hospital, Daniel discovered the door to an old laboratory. Upon entering, they saw traces of experiments and bloodstains. They also noticed a few gloves and old medical instruments that caught their attention. In the center of the laboratory stood a massive experimentation table, with bloodstains still visible. Meanwhile, Emma found a diary on a corner shelf in a room. The diary contained notes detailing the horrific experiments conducted in the final years of the hospital. She called out to her friends, saying, "This place must have been truly dreadful." As they examined the diary, they learned more about how the hospital staff had descended into madness and the tortuous experiments the patients endured. Faced with this terrifying mystery, the friends had to make a decision. They could either turn back or press on to uncover the history and story of the ghosts. Their choice would lead them into a struggle for survival. The friends decided to press on and unravel the story of the horrifying experiments and ghosts. The diary Emma had found contained crucial information about the history of the hospital, and solving this mystery was their only chance in this dark place. They continued down the hospital corridors, uncovering more mysteries with each step. The scratches on the walls seemed to be signs of pain and despair. The seductive whispers of the ghosts told them dark tales. Upon entering a room, they discovered traces of an old medical laboratory. Here, they found evidence that horrifying experiments were conducted on people. It seemed as though hundreds of people had experienced pain and despair in this room. Bloodstains covered the walls and floor, telling a gruesome tale of the past. As they ventured deeper, the presence of the ghosts became even more pronounced. Semi-transparent figures filled the corridors and approached the friends. The ghosts seemed to be trying to express the pain and anger they had experienced in their past. The cold touch and angry gazes of the ghost that held Emma's hand were unforgettable. When the friends entered the next room, they reached the place where the most horrifying experiment of the hospital took place. Here, they found an old experimental chamber and an enigmatic object covered with a sheet. They understood that this object was a part of the ritual to capture souls. The experimentation table in the center of the room seemed like the epicenter of darkness, surrounded by floating ghosts, reminiscent of the imprints of the past. Now, it was time to make a perilous decision. Perhaps the way to calm the anger of the ghosts was to reverse this ritual. The friends decided to embark on this potentially dangerous attempt. Daniel had come across some information about the ritual in one of the old books he found in the shelf. Using this information, they would try to appease the ghost's anger and put an end to the hospital's curse. Following the ritual instructions they found in an old book, the friends began to reverse the soul-capturing experience. The spirits sensed this change and started expressing their anger. The atmosphere in the room was dense, and the ghosts seemed to be trying to express the pain and anger they had experienced in their past. Daniel led the ritual as the guiding force, and along with his friends, they attempted to complete it. As the ghosts began to free themselves from their pain and anger, the atmosphere in the room changed. The cold air that surrounded them was replaced by a kind of tranquility. The eyes of the ghosts were no longer filled with anger. Instead, they held expressions of gratitude. When the friends completed the ritual, they witnessed the change that took place. The ghosts vanished silently, and the hospital building was enveloped in silence. When Daniel completed the final step of the ritual, the room filled with a bright light, and then suddenly plunged into darkness. The hospital building quieted down, returning to its previous horrifying state. Doors opened once again, and the corridors returned to normal. The friends took a deep breath. Having survived this nightmarish ordeal, now there was a silent building in place of the dark corridors filled with ghosts. As they exited the hospital, the morning sun was rising, and the darkness around the city had dissipated. The 5 friends were going to share this unforgettable experience. The abandoned hospital had now become nothing more than a ghost story, and the friends would never forget this dark adventure. However, even though they seemed to have escaped the hospital, their spirits remained there. At times, they would find themselves wandering through the old hospital corridors in their dreams, and the quiet whispers of the ghosts still echoed in their ears. Perhaps that hospital building would continue to exist as a part of forgotten ghosts and darkness forever. In the end, the 5 friends had emerged from this terrifying adventure, but there would always be a trace of this night in their souls. The abandoned hospital continued to quietly await on the edge of the city. Perhaps one day daring souls would have the courage to uncover its dark secrets. Nevertheless, this story would remain an unforgettable memory for Emma, Lily, Jake, Daniel, and Ethan.